Om Shri Sai Nathaaya Chapter 7 Shri Sai Satcharitra. Wonderful incarnation, behavior of Sai Baba, his yogic practices, his all-pervasiveness and mercy, Leopard devotee service, master carpet display case, and going to Pandaval are discussed in this chapter. Wonderful incarnation. Sai Baba knew all yogic practices. He was well versed in the 6 processes, including devotee, that is stomach cleaning by a moist piece of cloth, 3-inch in breadth and 22.5 in length, Kanda Yoga, that is separating his limbs and joining them again, and Samadhi. If you thought that he was a Hindu, he looked like a Muslim. If you thought him to be a Muslim, he looked like a pious Hindu. No one definitely knew whether he was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. He celebrated the Hindu festival of Ramanavami with all due formalities and at the same time permitted the sandal procession of the Mohammedans. He encouraged wrestling bout in this festival. When the Gokulashtami came, he got the Gopalakala ceremony duly performed, and on the Eid festival he allowed the Mohammedans to say their prayers in his masjid. Once, during a Muharram festival, some Mohammedans proposed to construct a tabor in the masjid, keep it there for some days, and afterwards take it in procession through village. Sai Baba allowed the keeping of tabor for 4 days, and on the 5th day got it removed from the masjid without the least compulsion. If we say that he was a Mohammedan, his ears were pierced. If you think he was a Hindu, he advocated the practice of circumcision. According to Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who observed him closely, he was not himself circumcised. Wide article in Sai Leela and Baba Ki Yavan by B.V. Dev, page 562. If you call him Hindu, he always lived in masjid. If Mohammedan, he had always the Duni sacred fire there, and the following things which are contrary to Mohammedan religion, that is the grinding on the handmill, blowing of the conch and bell, oblation in the fire, bhajan, giving of food and worship of Baba's feet by means of arghya were allowed there. If you think that he was Mohammedan, the best of Brahmins and Agnihotris, leaving aside their orthodox ways, fell prostrate at his feet. Those who went to make inquiries about his caste were dumbfounded and were captured by his darshan, so none could definitely decide whether Sai Baba was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. This is no wonder, for he who completely surrenders himself to the Lord by getting rid of his egoism and body consciousness, thus becomes one with him and has nothing to do with any questions of caste or nationality. Baba saw no difference between any 2 castes or even between beings. He took meat and fish with fakirs but did not grumble when dogs touched the dishes with their mouths. Such a unique and wonderful incarnation was Sai Baba. On account of the merits in my past birth, I had the good fortune to sit at his feet and enjoy his blessed company. The joy and the delight I derived therefrom was incomparable. In fact, Sai Baba was a pure Anand and consciousness. I cannot sufficiently describe him, his greatness and uniqueness. He who took delight at his feet was established in his own self. Many sannyasis, sadhakas and all sorts of men aspiring for salvation came to Sai Baba. He always walked, talked and laughed with them and always uttered Allah Malik. He never liked the discussion. He was always calm and controlled. Though irritable at times, always preached Vedanta, and nobody knew till the last who was Baba. Princes and poor people were treated alike by him. He knew the inmost secrets of all, and when he gave expressions to them, all were surprised. He was the repository of all knowledge. Still he feigned ignorance. He also disliked honor. Such was the characteristics of Sai Baba. Though he had a human body, his deeds testified to his godhood. All people consider him as the God in Shri. Let us discuss about behavior of Sai Baba. Ignorant that I cannot describe Baba's miracles. He got almost all the temple in Shri repaired. Through Tatya Patel, the temple of Shani, Ganapati, Shankara Parvati, village deity and Maruti were put in order. His charity was also remarkable. The money he used to collect as dakshina was freely distributed. Rupees 20 to some, rupees 15 or 50 to others every day. The recipients thought that this was pure charity money, and Baba wished that it should be usefully employed. People benefited immensely by having Baba's darshan. Some became hale and hearty. Wicked people were turned into good ones. Leprosy was cured in some cases. Many got their desires fulfilled without any medicines being put in the eyes. Some blind men got back their sight, and some lame ones got their limbs. Nobody could see the end of his extraordinary greatness. His fame spread far and wide, and pilgrims from all sides flocked to Shirdi. Baba had his hasan near the Duni and always rested there. He sat there in meditation, sometimes without a bath. He used to tie a small white turban on his head and wear a clean dhoti round his waist and a shirt on his body. This was his attire in the beginning. He first practiced medicine in the village. He examined patients and gave medicines. He was always successful and he became famous as a hakim. A curious case may be narrated here. One devotee had his eyes quite red and swollen. No doctor was available in Shirdi. The other devotees took him to Baba. In such cases, other doctors would use ointment, unguents, cow milk, and camphorated drugs. Baba's remedy was quite unique. He pounded some biba, that is Casperus ana cardamom, marking nuts, and made 2 balls of them and thrust them on in each eye of the patient and wrapped a cloth bandage round them. Next day, the bandage was removed and water was poured over them. The inflammation subsided and the pupil became white and clear. Though the eyes are very delicate, the biba caused no hurt but removed the disease of the eyes. Many such cases were cured. This is only one instance in this regard. Let us see Baba's yogic practices. Baba knew all the processes and practices of yoga. 2 of them will be described here. Dauti Kriya or cleansing process. Every 3rd day, Baba went to the well near banyan tree at a considerable distance from the masjid, washed his mouth and had a bath. On one such occasion, he was seen throwing up his intestine, clean them inside outside and place them on a jam tree for drying. There are people in Shirdi who have actually seen this and who have testified to this fact. Ordinary dhoti is done by a moistened piece of cloth 3 inches broad, 22.5 feet long. This piece is gulped down the throat and allowed to remain in the stomach for about half an hour for being reacted there and then taken out. But Baba's dhoti was quite unique and extraordinary. Kanda Yoga. In this practice, Baba extracted the limbs from his body and left them separately at different places in the masjid. Once, a gentleman went to the masjid and saw the limbs of Baba lying in separate places. He was terrified. He first thought of running to the village officers and informing them of Baba being hacked to pieces and murdered. He thought that perhaps he would be held responsible as he was the first informant and knew something of the affair. So he kept silent. But next day, when he went to the masjid, he was very much surprised to see Baba hale and hearty as before. He thought that what he had seen the previous day was only a dream. Baba practiced yoga since his infancy and nobody knew or guessed the proficiency he had attained in it. He charged no fees for his cures, became renowned and famous by virtue of his merits, and gave health to many a poor and suffering person. This famous doctor of doctors cared not for his interests, but always worked for the good and welfare of others. Himself suffered unbearable and terrible pain many a time in the process. One such instance I will relate now, which will show the all-pervasive and most merciful character of Sai Baba. Let us know Baba's all-pervasiveness and mercy. In the year 1910, Baba was sitting near the Duni on Diwali and warming himself. He was putting firewood into the Duni, which was burning brightly. A little later, instead of pushing logs of wood, Baba pushed his arm into the Duni. His arm was scorched and burned. This was noticed by the boy Madhav and also by Madhavrao Deshpande. They at once ran to Baba and Madhavrao clasped Baba by his waist and from behind dragged him forcefully backward and asked, "Deva, why you done this?" Then Baba came to his senses and replied, "The wife of a blacksmith at some distant place was working the below of a furnace, the husband called her. Forgetting that her child was on her lap, she got up hastily and the child slipped into the furnace. I immediately thrust my hand into the furnace and saved the child. I don't mind my arm being burned, but I am glad that life of a child is saved. Let us see Leopard devotee service. On hearing the news of Baba's hand being burned from Shama, Mr. Nana Sai Satcharitra, accompanied by the famous doctor Parmanand of Mumbai with his medical outfit consisting of ointment, lint and bandages, rushed to Shirdi and requested Baba to allow Dr. Parmanand to examine the arm and dress the wound caused by the burn. This was refused. Ever since the burnt arm was dressed by Bagoji Shinde, a leper devotee, his treatment consisted in massaging the burnt part with butter and then placing a leaf over it and bandaging it tightly. Mr. Nana Sai Satcharitra solicited Baba many a time to unfasten the bandages, get the wound examined, dressed and treated by Dr. Parmanand with the object that it may heal fast. Dr. Parmanand himself made similar request, but Baba postponed it by saying that Allah was his doctor and did not allow his arm to be examined. Dr. Parmanand's medicine were not exposed to the air of Shirdi. They remained intact, but he had the good fortune of getting a darshan of Baba. Babuji was allowed to treat the hand daily. After some days, the arm healed and all were happy. Still, we don't know whether any trace of pain was left or not. Every morning, Babuji went through his program of untying the bandages, massaging the arm with ghee and tightly bandaging it again. This went on till Sai Baba's Samadhi. Sai Baba, a perfect Siddha as he was, did not really want this treatment, but out of love for his devotee, he allowed the Upasana service of Babuji to go on uninterrupted all along. When Baba started for Lendi, Babuji held an umbrella over him and accompanied him. Every morning, when Baba sat near the post close to the Duni, Babuji was present and started his service. Babuji was a sinner in his past birth. He was suffering from leprosy. His finger had shrunk. His body was full of pus and smelling badly. Though outwardly he seemed so unfortunate, he was really very lucky and happy, for he was the premier servant of Baba and got the benefit of his company. Let us now discuss about Master Kappa's play case. I shall now relate another instance of Baba's wonderful Leela. Mrs. Kappa, the wife of Mr. Dada Sahib Kappa of Amaravati, was staying at Shirdi with her young son for some days. One day, the son got high fever, which further developed into bubonic plague. The mother was frightened and felt most uneasy. She thought of leaving the place for Amaravati and went near Baba in the evening when he was coming near the Vada in his evening rounds for asking his permission. She informed him in a trembling tone that her dear young son was down with plague. Baba spoke kindly and softly to her, saying that sky is beset with clouds, but they will melt and pass off, and everything will be smooth and clear. So saying, he lifted up his kafni up to the waist and showed to all present 4 fully developed pubos as big as egg and added, "See how I have to suffer for my devotees. Their difficulties are mine." Seeing this unique and extraordinary Leela, people were convinced as to how the saints suffer pain for their devotees. The heart of the saints is softer than wax. It is soft in and out as butter. They love their devotees without any idea of gain and regard them as their true relatives. Let us now discuss about going to Pandaval. I shall now close this chapter after relating a story illustrating how Sai Baba loved his devotees and anticipated their wishes and movements. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandrokar, who was a great devotee of Baba, was a revenue officer at Nandurbar in Khandesh. He got an order of transfer to Pandaval. His devotion to Sai Baba bore fruit as he got an order to go and stay at Pandaval, which is regarded as the Bhuvaikunta, heaven on earth. Nana Sahib had to take immediate charge, so he left the place without even writing or informing anybody at Shirdi. He wanted to give a surprise visit at Shirdi, his Pandaval, and see and salute his Vitoba, that is Baba, and then proceed further. Nobody knew of Nana Sahib's departure for Shirdi, but Sai Baba knew all about this, as his eyes were everywhere. As soon as Nana Sahib approached Nimgaon, a few miles from Shirdi, there was a still in masjid at Shirdi. Baba was sitting and talking with Malaspati, Appa Shinde and Kashiram, when he at once said, "Let us all 4 do some bhajans. The door of Pandri are open. Let us sing merrily." Then they began to sing in chorus, The bhava of the song being, I have to go to Pandharpur and I have to stay on there, for it is the house of my Lord. Baba sang and the devotees followed him. After a short while, Nana Sahib came there with his family, prostrated before Baba and requested him to accompany them to Pandharpur and stay with them there. This solicitation was not necessary, as the devotees told Nana Sahib that Baba was already in the mood of going to Pandharpur and staying there. Hearing this, Nana Sahib was moved and fell at Baba's feet. Then, after getting Baba's permission, Udi and blessing, Nana Sahib left for Pandharpur. There is no end to Baba's stories, but let me now stop here, reserving for the next chapter other topics such as importance of human life, Baba living on alms, Bhaja by service and other stories. Go to Shri Sai, peace be to all. Om Shri Sai Rakshaka Sharanam.